G'day guys, how are we going? Welcome to Talking Boxing. It is March 27th, 2023, and as always, what a big weekend or big week it's been in boxing. Now we are early tonight, of course. It's of course 7 o'clock here in Victoria, Australia. Now the reason I've done that is because if you've tuned in the last couple of weeks, had a little bit of dramas with the internet and a few other bits and pieces. So I've found out that for some reason Starlink like to do their maintenance and upgrades and all that sort of stuff at around 8:30, 8:45, which is about the time things are sort of getting juicy here. So I've decided that we're going to go at 7 o'clock. I'm not sure if anyone's watching or will watch at this time, but hopefully they're watching back later on. But thanks for joining in. If you haven't been here before, this is Talking Boxing. This is your show. You can put your comments, questions, whatever you want to do in the chat below. And as I said, this is your show, and we talk about. I've got my agenda that we're going to go through, of course. A little bit went on the weekend. Great weekend for boxing. I thought it was awesome. So we'll go through all that. A little bit of what's happening in the coming weeks, the box rec schedule, all that sort of stuff, and of course, put down there if you've got something you want to discuss that's not on the agenda, then by all means, let me know. So. Who we got there already? We've got Mr. Pads. How are you, mate? Big up, Lyndon. Hope you're well today. I'm awesome, mate. It is Monday, but we are talking boxing. That's what we all love to do, of course. So, I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say tonight. But I'm doing well. The team had a win on the weekend. The Mighty Blues beat reigning premiers Geelong on Thursday night. So, if you're not a footy fan or an AFL fan, you got no idea what I'm talking about. But the Blues, one win and a draw after 2 games, so we're on the way. James, how are you, mate? Good to have you in the chat, and let's get into it. Well, as I said, if you've got a question, comment, make sure you put it in there, because I've got a lot of people that message me privately, say, I haven't really been. I'm not quite sure. Hey, we're all boxing fans here, so don't stress about. Geez, am I going to look silly? Am I going to ask the wrong thing? What? Look, I don't know half the stuff I talk about either. I just pretend and make shit up anyway. No, I'm only joking. But you know what I'm getting at. You're amongst friends, so please don't feel hesitant about putting something in, no matter how irrelevant the question seems or how maybe silly you feel. Don't stress. Put it in there. This is not ESPN with was it First Take, whatever it's called. This is just us talking boxing. So, and you're amongst friends, as I said. All right. So on the weekend, of course, the big fight. David Benavidez and Caleb Plant. Not sure whether you watched it out there. It was on pay-per-view, wherever you watched it around the world. If you're we like this. There's Mick. Thanks, mate. Go the Blue Baggers. Hope there's more Blue Baggers out there. I know Ronnie Pickens watching, so how are you, mate? Jackie Dilk's out there as well. The Saints 2-0, so good on them. So anyway, we're not talking footy tonight. So David Benavidez got the win over Caleb Plant. It was a very anticipated fight. I must admit, I wasn't overly keen on, when these big fights come out, it's like, you smash the button to book it. I only booked it the day before. I wasn't quite sure whether I wanted to see it. I just thought a little bit what happened. David Benavidez would be too big and too strong for Caleb Plant, but I must admit I was pleasantly surprised in the first probably 6 rounds. I thought Caleb Plant did really well. I know there's been lots of controversy in the last day since it's happened. Also, no, look, it didn't really matter because David Benavidez got a comprehensive victory. The scores, by the way, were 115, 113, 116, 112, and 117, 111. So that was the official scorecard. So we'll go through the whole fight in a second. The undercard, of course, was awesome as well. I'm not sure, again, whether you guys watch it out there, but it was a really, really, really good undercard. Sometimes you get a lot of these big fights, and they just put the undercard on for the sake of it, and they're normally the A side beating up on some B side or C side, if you will. So you normally get that a little bit, but yesterday the fights were so evenly matched. I know there's a little bit of controversy in undercard as well, and we'll get to those. Actually, we'll start with the main event anyway. So David Benavidez, I've just read the scorecards out there. And as I said, I wasn't overly looking forward to it. I just thought Benavidez was big and strong. Caleb Plant's not, I was going to say he's not the biggest super middleweight, but by the tail of the tape, he was actually taller than Benavidez, which I just couldn't see because he looked tiny against Benavidez. And Benavidez looks big against anyone, I suppose, doesn't he? But look, I was really keen on what I saw at the start. I thought Caleb Plant took the right game plan in. He tried to take centre ring at the start without being too aggressive. He just wanted to let David Benavidez know that he was there to fight. He wasn't there to back up and be blown out of there. And I thought he was pretty slick early. Thought he had a really good jab. David Benavides, I thought, looked a little bit wooden. I thought in the first few rounds, and after 6 or 7 rounds, I think I planned in front. I think I might have given him 4 out of the first 6 rounds. I'm not sure how you guys had it out there, but I thought he boxed really well for the first half of the fight. Fatigue started to kick in. Benavides started to get his range a little bit more and really picked it up. But I still had it even after 8 rounds. I thought 4 rounds each. A lot of rounds could have maybe went either way, but I don't think Benavides really picked it up until the 9th. And when he did, it was pretty much game over, wasn't he? He just put it on Plant, and Plant unfortunately really just couldn't go with him. Benavides is such a big super middleweight, isn't he? Just a big guy, strong guy. He can punch, and he won those last 4 rounds clearly, I thought. And look, the controversy. Well, I was just going to get to that Mick was a disgrace. Now, look, I do agree to some extent, Mick, I will say, but on the other hand, look, you can only do what you can do. Now, Kenny Bayless is a very, very experienced referee. He's been in so many big fights. I think they said he's refereed something like 800 fights or 8,000. It might have been 800 fights of world title fights or whatever it is, but it was a lot of fights. Look, I don't think he did a bad job. I don't think he did a good job. But look, I think Caleb Plant, I'm talking about the holding here. If you're not familiar with it, if you haven't seen the highlights or anything like that, Caleb Plant, excessive holding during the fight. But I don't think Kenny Bayless, look, he might have had grounds, of course, to maybe warn him a couple of times, but the way he did it was very, very smart. He would go in and grab, but then Benavides would almost let himself be tied up, and he would actually take the hands away, and he'd still sort of have him there to keep Benavides sort of in play, but he wasn't actually holding on. He would grasp for starters, and then he would loosen it and just have his sort of arms draped over Benavides. And Benavides wasn't really, until later in the fight, really trying to free himself up. So should he have gotten a warning or two? Absolutely. But I just think Caleb Plant is a very, very cagey fighter. Fought really, really well within the sort of parameters he had as far as the rules goes. But I do agree that it wasn't Kenny's finest night, and I think when he watched it back, and I'm sure they do, that he would probably say, "Yeah, look, I'll probably let him get away with a lot." But look, sometimes this happens. But look, I don't know. I did agree with the decision. I think the 116-112 is the way I had it as well. That was my decision. I don't think there's any. No, the ref. Yeah, we're still talking about the ref there, Mick. But yeah, I had it 116-112, so 8 rounds to 4. Maybe you could have thrown in maybe a 10-8 round towards the end. But I loved it. I loved the atmosphere. It was MGM Grand. It wasn't. I've got a feeling they didn't sell 15,000 or 16,000 tickets, what they normally get to the Mayweather and Canelo and those types of fights. But I think they can actually section off the top tier, so it gets about 8,000 or 9,000. But either way, the atmosphere was great. I thought the telecast was great, really good with Showtime Boxing, I will say. They just beat the hell out of DAZN. Not a fan of DAZN at all. So I really thought they did the job. Now just on the fight itself, guys. Now I'm about to upset a few of you people out there. I had this conversation today with Uncle Ronnie Pickens, so hopefully he's watching. He can put a comment in there. Look, I'm going to say something a little bit controversial about David Benavides. As I said, I'm sure I'm going to get some blowback on and some criticism. I'm sorry, guys. I don't rate him. I'm just putting it out there. Look, I take that back. I rate him. He's a world champion. Well, he's not a world champion. He's the interim champion, whatever it is. But as far as being in the elite fighters in the world, I'm sorry, I don't see it. I don't see it. I thought Caleb Plant really exposed a lot of his weaknesses yesterday. As I said at the start, I think he looked wooden. I think he looked one-dimensional. I think Caleb Plant made him look very, very ordinary, and he just ran out of steam, and Benavides was just a bit too big and strong. Will that strategy work against someone like a Canelo? I think absolutely not. Now, my opinion is, again, I'm just waiting for the comments to come and tell me to shut up. In my opinion, if we get a Canelo that's anywhere near his best, if they do fight, I think Canelo absolutely schools Benavides. I really do. I think Canelo's not going to stand there and let Benavides throw him around like Plant did and load up bombs. Canelo is a very, very underrated boxer. Now, he might be aggressive. He might load up on his punches. He's got great head movement, great footwork, great lateral movement. I'm not say lateral movement. I'm not talking about around the ring. I'm just talking that little side step to one side and a side step to the other and a twist and a turn. I think Benavides, you can read like a book when the right hands are coming at you. I don't think he gets away with that against someone like a Canelo. And I just think Canelo wins that fight very, very handily if the Canelo that we all know and love turns up. Now, it's hard to gauge on Canelo's last couple of fights because the Bivol fight, look, he went up, as they say, dared to be great against a solid light heavyweight, and he got schooled himself. No issue with that. Golovkin, on the other hand, I don't think really, for some unknown reason, which I'll never be able to work out, he didn't really turn up to win. Golovkin against Canelo in the first, definitely the first fight, but even a little bit in the second fight was more successful coming forward and being the aggressor. And for some reason, he decided to box against Canelo. He got outboxed. He lost nearly every round. So it was really hard to make of something of Canelo in that fight. I think Canelo, if he gets the right fight, the right preparation, he's had a good rest coming into his next fight. I think it would have been about 8 months since he's fought. I just think, as I said, that he absolutely takes Benavides to school. I don't think Benavides can land the big right hand him. I think, as I said, I think Canelo's swift head movement, very, very tough to hit cleanly is Canelo. Yes, Benavides will have about a foot on him as far as his height goes. Going to look pretty weird. But look, Canelo's done it against some big super middleweights and especially light heavyweights. Callum Smith and Kovalev and a few of these other guys. The bigger guys, he's handled them no problem because he just and not just the elite guys. He's fought some lesser lights, but they're big guys. None of them have been able to land big shots on Canelo. And Canelo just Benavides, the right hand's coming back from here. I just don't think he hits Canelo clean. And if he does, I think Canelo's sort of got the jaw to take it. It's just my opinion. Let's see what we've got going in there. Mick agrees with me. What do you got there, mate? Canelo will piece him up. Piece him up, whatever that means, mate. I'm assuming you'll agree with me. I just think Canelo is a class above Benavides. And Benavides is a big, strong, tough guy. I make no bones about it. He's not even a champion yet, so let's not call him a champion. Big, strong guy. I just think he just doesn't have the skill and technique. You saw what Caleb Plant was able to do when he was fresh. And Caleb Plant is nowhere near the league of Canelo Alvarez. If you want to go a step further, we always judge Canelo against a Bivol or Beterbiev and these types of guys who are division above. They're still a little bit the same with Benavides. I would think if he fought someone like Bivol, he would be even more embarrassed. He would be outboxed, and I don't think would win a round against Bivol. And I think Beterbiev would go toe-to-toe with Benavides and knock him out. What do you guys think? Top Contender Boxing Network. I'm not sure you've been on here before, mate, but thanks for being on. I've got someone in agreement. Spot on. Benavides started winning as he started to hurt Caleb Plant. Canelo has moved up to light heavyweight, and his chin won't be a problem against David. 100% agree. We'll call you the Boxing Network there. If you've got a first name, put it in there. But look, Canelo is very, very hard to hit. I just think he's fought better fighters than Benavides and taken good shots and hasn't been hurt. I just don't see how Benavides hits him and hurts him. I really don't. And Canelo's never really been rocked before, and he's fought some killers as well. Golovkin, of course. Cotto, I know they're a lot smaller than what Benavides is. But I just think he takes Benavides. Look, the thing with Benavides is I don't think he's a massive puncher. And again, a lot of you guys are probably going, what the hell is he on? He's not a big puncher. He's a big, strong guy, but he hit Caleb Plant with some good punches yesterday and failed to really rattle him. Yeah, he threw him around, he ragdolled him, he bullied him, all the rest of it. But at no stage did he really have Caleb Plant hurt. And remember, Canelo was able to drop Caleb Plant and stop him. David Benavides couldn't. And I just don't... He's a clubbing type of fighter, but he's not a big puncher, I don't think. As I said, I just don't see it, guys. I've got a few more comments there. Team Batman Boxing, how are you, mate? No doubt Canelo beats him last Saturday, made him more confident Canelo still beats him, mate. I'm glad I've got a few of you out there agreeing, because I know there would have been a few eye rolls, but I don't know. Look, there's some really good fighters, and I had the conversation again with Uncle Ronnie today about it, and I'm talking about what Canelo would do to Benavides. Imagine, I'll just get my screen right there, guys. I've blurred a little bit there. Hopefully I'll come okay. But I just compare him to. I mean, this guy thinks he's a player and one of the big guys in the division. I would be really worried about what guys like, in the past, like Jones Jr. and Tony and Andre Ward and all these guys would have, and Calzaghe and all these types of guys would have absolutely embarrassed Benavidez. So I'm sorry, I don't rate him. I've said it 5 times now, and I think Canelo wins this fight very clearly. Andy's in the chat. How are you, mate? Thanks for tuning in. What do you guys think? Put some more comments in there. Am I overreacting? Am I not giving Benavidez his due? I will give him his due as far as he got the job done. That's all he can do. Caleb Plant's probably the biggest fight for him that wanted to fight him. But what happens if in September, do you think that fight will happen for starters? Do you think that that Canelo will fight Benavidez in September, or will go down the Bivol route? I don't think he has a lot of problems with John Ryder, I will say. I think he gets the job done against him quite comfortably as well. Probably stops John Ryder. Although Ryder is pretty cagey, might maybe box and move and hold for 12 rounds. But either way, I think Canelo wins that fight pretty comfortably. I don't want to see, I know going off track a little bit, I don't want to see Canelo in with Bivol again. I don't think there's a need for it. I think the same result, mate. I think the result might be a little bit closer this time. I think Canelo really steps up the pace, but I just think Bivol, I just don't think he's fast enough to, it's big enough to get close enough to Bivol to reverse that result. So get rid of it. Take on the Benavidez of the world. I'm not sure what Charlo's doing. He's either fighting or going on, whatever. But Benavidez is the big fight. Take the fight, Canelo, and let's see a big fight in September. I think that's going to have a hell of a lot more interest than Bivol rematch. Speaking of Uncle Ronnie Picken, he is officially in the house. So, hey, Ronnie, you're making some good points, Lynden. And as we know, styles make fights. Yep. I still think it's a good matchup, and Benavidez would certainly do better than the likes of Jacobs and Saunders. Yeah. Oh, look, mate, I got no doubt, but I'm sick of seeing on whether it be on the social media side or the media websites, whatever it might be. I'm just sick of people saying that Canelo's running from Benavidez. Guys, I can assure you, and I say it countless times on this show or on numerous shows, fighters at that level they're not afraid of other fighters. They don't run. They don't. Look, the management might avoid them for certain reasons, for business purposes, whether it's for to build the fight up and make it a little bit more attractive to the fans out there, or whatever it might be, build it up to to get a bit more money. Canelo's not scared of Benavidez, and I think, having watched that fight yesterday, I think he'd be licking his lips saying, "Now's the time." Benavidez is his first pay-per-view yesterday. He's now going to be known to a bit more broader audience, and I think that the time is right for that Canelo. And if that's the fight, it'll be one of the biggest fights of the year. And one thing I will say, Ronnie, I think you've actually got it right. I think you left a couple of comments in here a few weeks ago, and I really needed an interpreter to make sense of it. So you're getting the hang of it, mate. I'm proud of you. Team Batman Boxing. Says, I thought Benavidez would win and stop Plant. I did as well, mate. Plant won many of the early rounds against Benavidez, didn't throw his usual flurries as Plant didn't allow it. Good win for Benavidez, but he's not beating Canelo. Well, I'm glad you guys are agreeing with me, because, as I said, I'm sick of seeing it on all the socials and the media sites that Benavidez is too big, too strong, and he'll take Canelo out. I can't see it. I certainly can't see him stopping Canelo. I mean, as I said before, he's a clubbing type of guy, big, strong, but I don't think he's a big puncher. I think he gets a lot of these guys out of there just by inferior opposition for starters, but he just wears them down and bullies them and makes them quit. But he hasn't, in my opinion, fought anywhere near. Caleb Plant's the best fighter he's fought. I don't think he's fought anywhere near the caliber that he needs to get a good read on him. I think he's been a bit of a bully. And I think he's going to get exposed when he fights those really good guys. And I've said Canelo, but especially if he wants to move up, I know he's had weight problems as well. Whether he decides to move up and fight the likes of Bivol and Beterbiev, I think we're going to have a different opinion of Benavidez afterwards. James, what do you got there, mate? I'll just get that on there. Sorry, I lost it there. I think Benavidez went from number 12 pound for pound to number 11 pound for pound. Plant outside top 20. I don't think I would have had Plant in the top 20 pound for pound anyway, James, to be honest. I think I like Plant, but he's not a big puncher. We've seen him fade a lot in fights, especially this one against Canelo. I know the opposition's pretty good, but in my opinion, I wouldn't have him anywhere near the top 20 in the pound for pound. Benavides, no way. I wouldn't have him anywhere near number 11 either. So opinions vary. Again, with the pound for pound thing, I don't have a 1 to 10 or 1 to 15, whatever. I have a group of fighters that I think are the best, but I think ranking is so hard that I just won't do it. It's just too hard. Andy. Benavides got the W, never lost inside ring yet, so deserves shot at Canelo belts after Ida. Yeah, mate, 100% agree. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve a shot at Canelo. I just don't think he beats Canelo. I hope we get the opportunity to prove me wrong, by the way. I would love to see this fight. And I think besides, what have we got? Garcia, Davis coming up. Who knows what's going to happen with Tyson Fury. I know there's some big fights coming up this year, but if Canelo and Benavides fight in September, I think that fight is bigger than Garcia and Davis, if you ask me. For me, anyway. I'd much prefer to see that one. But yeah, don't disagree with you, Andy. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve a shot. He does. He deserves a shot at the undisputed titles. Probably deserved it maybe 1 or 2 fights ago. But I've got a feeling that Bivol and Beterbiev will fight. Canelo will fight Benavides, I think, next. Let's hope so, anyway. Stephen, Charlo might as well retire. Well, mate, is it? Yeah, mate, I don't know. I know he's got a fight booked in June, hasn't he? Has he got an opponent yet? I did see on the socials that he was talking about. I'm not sure he's got someone to fight yet. I know there's a few opponents thrown out there, so let me know if you do know someone. But how the WBC haven't stripped this guy is totally beyond me. I just don't understand it. Should have stripped him a year ago, or at least 6 months ago. Batman, Canelo did have some success early before he gassed it. It's a tough fight, win or lose, but I think Canelo will give a better account of himself. The good thing about this one, Batman, if he fights Benavides, he doesn't have to go looking for him. Now, the difference when he's fought in the past and gassed, especially Bivol's got that really high work rate, good movement, good volume of punches, good stamina, of course, bigger guy, stronger, and who knows what he weighed going into the fight. Canelo, what was the fight at 175? Canelo might have been 180, 180, 283. Bivol could have been 195. I mean, who knows? But the one thing Benavides, and I think Canelo fights best when guys come to him and he can just use his timing. As I said before, he's got great timing, great head movement. Very, very hard to hit clean. And I think with Benavides coming at him with these little side steps and counters, I just think Benavides makes it a lot easier on Canelo than it would have been on for Bivol. And the thing is, Bivol dictated the pace and really got Canelo out of his comfort zone. Now, one thing about fighters like Canelo is they tend to gas because they put everything into every single punch, every single combination. Now, in that fight, Bivol had a great game plan, because what he would do is take Canelo out of his comfort zone. So when Canelo's trying to rest, Bivol's putting it on him and making him work when he's trying to recuperate. And it really made it hard for Canelo, which is why he gassed so quickly and so early. The thing with Benavides, Canelo is pretty much going to dictate the pace of the fight. Benavides will be coming forward, but Canelo being able to go side to side, get inside, clinch, whatever, I think it's going to be a hell of a lot easier for him to fight smart than it would have and conserve that energy than what it would have been against Bivol. As I say, a few of you guys said tonight, styles make fights, and Benavides is absolutely custom made for Canelo. Ronnie Picken again. Was there any thoughts of Bivol coming down to super middleweight? I think he would, mate, only if it was Canelo. I don't think. Look, although if Bivol, they do happen to fight and Benavides does happen to beat Canelo, well, then obviously there's that fight for him as well. But I think he said he'll only come down to fight Canelo. He's got some big fights up at that weight as well, especially the Beterbiev fight. So stay at light heavyweight. Why drain yourself if you don't have to? Andy, I expected if Plant gassed, Benavides will end it, but Plant survived. Yeah, I don't know how, mate. I know we've discussed it with the refereeing. He did hold and clinch and everything else, but I just thought it was more boxing smarts. I think, I think it was more said more about Benavides than what it did against Plant about Plant, because in the Canelo fight, I mean, Canelo is one of the best to do it. Such a great fighter, so elite. He got Plant out of there when Plant was trying to survive and run and hold, whatever it might be. Canelo said, "Not on my watch, mate," and just got him out of there. Benavides really struggled land more than one or two hard shots, and he was tied up. And say what you will about the referee, but Plant tried the exact same thing against Canelo and got stopped. He tried that against Benavidez, and Benavidez just didn't have the class or ability to get him out of there. So I'm with you, Andy. I expected Benavidez to stop him, but just couldn't do it. And I don't think he even come close to really stopping him, to be honest. If you watch it, I know the crowd went up a few times and Plant was looking a little bit shaky, but he sort of got hit with one sort of half-decent shot. Then he would tie him up and clinch, and Benavidez started throwing big bombs, but you look at it carefully. Plant evaded most of them, glanced off his shoulders, and it was only the occasional one that actually got through clean, I thought. And I think it was more exhaustion that got Plant in the end. But as you said there, still couldn't get him out of there. So I'm not sure what to make of that. G'day, Matt. How are you, mate? Thanks for joining in the chat. No one wanted to see the Bivol fight the first time, let alone again. I much prefer them handle business in their own divisions. And if the stars align down the road, it's always there. Hey, mate, 100% agree. Look, apart from the pride and ego part, for Canelo, wanting to get the win back, as I said earlier, I don't think those styles and the weight and everything else, I don't think he beats Bivol no matter what happens. So why not just forget about it? Some really good fights for Canelo still. They've obviously got the Benavidez fight, Charlo if it happens. Some good fights for him around. So, I'm not quite sure. I agree with you, mate, there. I'm not quite sure why he would do the Bivol fight again, and it's all about the business type of thing. I know Eddie Hearn's going to try and spin it as best he can. The biggest fight ever and all the rest of it. And this time it's going to be different. I think boxing fans are a little bit more smarter than what we're given credit for sometimes. And I'm with you as far as not really being interested in the first Bivol fight, I will say. I'm certainly not interested in the rematch. And let's face it, we all want to see Bivol fight Beterbiev, and we all want to see Canelo fight Benavidez. All these names are all a bit of a tongue twister. So Bivol Beterbiev, Canelo Benavidez is the fights we want. So hopefully we get both later in the year. And I think for both of those fights, I think there's more money in both of those fights fighting each other. I know Bivol probably wants the payday against Canelo, but go for legacy against Beterbiev in their own way. That's going to be a big fight. But Canelo, the money fight is Benavidez. You saw the support he had there yesterday. He was the house fighter when he was going. The crowd went nuts. The introductions. So it's going to be interesting if and when they do fight with the split of the crowd. One thing that did make me, I suppose, not laugh, but to sort of raise an eyebrow. I mean, they call Benavidez the Mexican monster, I think it is, and he had the Mexican flag, and he said "Viva la Mexico" like they all do, and it's all great. The problem is, mate, he was born in Phoenix, Arizona. How about waving the American flag? So, just saying, it's okay to have the Mexican heritage, but just look, you are American. You have said that before, that you are an American. You're born in Phoenix, Arizona. How about a little red, white, and blue in there as well for all you Americans out there? Andy Benavidez stops off accumulation of punches at the moment at Canelo over Benavidez, to be honest. Yeah, well, it's good that we're all seem to be in an agreement here, guys, that we think Canelo has Benavidez, his measure. If you've got a different opinion, put it in the chat there. But I just think, as I said earlier, Benavidez, to me, got exposed yesterday for being a pretty one-dimensional type of fighter. And I just don't think he knew what to do with someone that was as slick as what Caleb Plant was. And as I said, Caleb Plant's not a big puncher. I don't think he also gave himself a real good chance to win, because even he got off a few combinations, but they were pity-pat. I mean, Benavidez didn't really even take his attention. So, yeah, I'm just not sure that Plant really ever stood a chance, to be honest. But he's a good fighter, former world champion, but I'm just not sure what he was trying to really achieve with his game plan yesterday, apart from trying to survive. G'day, Matt. Plant is tough and he's dogging him, but he always fades late. Yep, certainly does. He spent all his gas early being on his bike and putting such snap on those punches. The problem was, Matt, he had snap on the punches, but there was nothing really there to gain respect for Benavidez. Not at any stage did Benavidez stop in his tracks and go, "Wow, good shot," even though he wore a few. There wasn't really any, and that's probably why Plant has never really been at that real elite level, and which is why he never stood a chance against Canelo. You've got to be able to, get your opponent's respect, and he just doesn't give it, and he snaps out that jab. But apart from that, that's all he offered. So Benavidez was always going to walk him down, if you ask me. Team Batman Boxing, Benavidez is also hittable. He is 100% he's hittable. Canelo hits hard enough to damage him while using his defence to evade Benavidez, and shot for shot, Canelo hits much harder. Bad night for David, just my opinion. Mate, I couldn't put it better myself. I think what might happen in the fight is that Canelo will box smart. He won't run, though. He'll probably let Benavidez come to him, and he'll pick him off with some good counters. He'll make him miss and counter. And in my opinion, later in the fight, if Canelo wants to sit down on his punches and go toe-to-toe with Benavidez, I think he outpunches Benavidez. I really do. As I said earlier, I don't think Benavidez has got the punch to hurt Canelo, but I certainly think Canelo's got the punch, and Benavidez certainly puts his chin up in the air. When he punches, he doesn't really protect himself, and a fighter like Canelo will time it, and I just think he's got the ability to actually get Benavidez out of there. Matt says, pound for pound depends on caliber of position. Zero, not so much in my opinion. No, mate, I'm with you. I think the zero means absolutely zero these days. I just don't think the having an undefeated record means anything. It's who you fight and when you fight, and that's what creates your legacy, not your record. James, seen both Maloney's ex-opponents, tough fights. Yeah, we'll get on to that. I'll just get back to that in a minute, James. Just got a couple more comments coming about Plant and Benavidez. Jamal calling out Andrade now. Is he still around, Andrade? Is he? I don't know. But Andrade was the one that wanted to unify middleweight titles. Andrade up for it. Let's see if Jamal walks the walk. I don't think so, to be honest, Andy. I'd like to see that fight. I like Andrade, but again, not an overly exciting fighter. I do like Jamal, I will say. Jamal, not Jamal. I do like him as a fighter. I think he brings. The problem is, as we know, he just doesn't fight. I mean, I would love to see Jamal against Golovkin or Lara or who knows, even Zarafa, who knows, but definitely Canelo. I think there's some big fights out there for Jamal, but it's whether he's got it inside. Does he want it? I'm not sure whether he does. I just think and you see him lately, he's very puffy in the face. He's got to be, what's he fight at 160? He looks like he's about 185, if not 190 at the moment. So, yeah, I'm not sure whether the heart's still in it, whether he can get down for these types of fights. But he says he will in June, so we'll see. That fight would be good, Andy, if it comes off. I'll just, Ronnie, I've got your comment there. All right. We'll get on to just a couple more comments before we go back. We're going to talk about the Maloneys, and Ronnie Pickens put something there too I want to discuss. Prefer Bivol left to do the light heavyweight undisputed versus Benavidez, and if he wins, then is when Canelo can chase a rematch. Best legacy move for Canelo, though he already Hall of Fame. 100% he's an Hall of Famer. He could retire tomorrow and still be a Hall of Famer. Yeah, I like it, mate. I agree. I just hope Benavidez doesn't beat Bivol and then Canelo decides to fight him, because that's not going to end well. You talk about fighters being able to fight to hurt Canelo, and Benavidez is not just a slick boxer. He's a big puncher, and if anyone's going to really hurt Canelo, this is the guy. So I think Canelo's at the stage of his career, his age, and the amount of miles on the clock that I don't think that's a fight they will chase. I think if he beats Benavidez, and maybe it's Jamal Charlo, one of these guys. I just don't think he's actually got that many more fights left in him. He's got all the money in the world. He's got legacy now. He's undisputed in 3 different divisions or whatever it is. So I would think maybe a couple more years for Canelo, and that will see him out. But money talks, doesn't it? But I do agree with you there, mate. Bivol. Oh, I didn't know that one. Bivol said to be fighting Munguia. I didn't know that, Batman. Shed some light there, mate. I didn't know that. Andy, all the Canelo fanboys thought Canelo was running over Bivol. I picked Bivol in first and again in second, but full props if Canelo proves me wrong. Yeah, I'm with you, mate. I thought, I must admit, in the first fight, I thought Canelo would win only because fighters like him, like a Mayweather, not so much Pacquiao, because Pacquiao didn't care who and when he fought. He'd fight anybody, anywhere, anytime. They'd fight whoever they told him to fight. Mayweather like Canelo, or Canelo like Mayweather, good business people as well. They fight people at the right time. And I thought maybe that him and Eddie Hearn knew something that maybe the rest of us didn't, and he would beat Bivol, but Bivol was just too slick on the night. Big, strong guy. So, I'm with all you guys that stay away from that fight and move on. All right. Okay, we'll keep going. I want to get to another couple of things there, guys. I want to quickly address this one. Where are you, Ronnie? I'm going to look for your. All right, changing the subject. We will come back to the Canelo situation in a sec. Just changing the subject. There was a comment made by a well-credentialed boxing commentator and well-known referee that says Shannon Briggs beats Mike Tyson if they had fought. Thoughts, anyone? Is that, it's not April Fool's yet, is it, Ronnie? No, it can't be April Fool's. Shannon Briggs beats Mike Tyson, a prime Mike Tyson. Now, we've gone over the Mike Tyson situation in previous shows, guys, and what I'll say, I know he's got a bit of a love-hate relationship with Iron Mike. He unfortunately gets judged a lot by the end of his career, and people say Lennox Lewis stopped him, and Kevin McBride and all these other guys stopped him and beat him. Don't judge him on that, just please. Don't judge him. That's like judging Roy Jones Jr. for his last couple of years of fighting. Come on. Mike Tyson in his prime was an absolute killer. And Shannon Briggs, good, big, strong, tough guy, good skills. But Mike Tyson in his prime beat all those types of guys, and that to me is a no contest. I think Mike Tyson wins. I don't think he knocks Shannon Briggs out. One thing I will say, I think Shannon Briggs is tough and durable, but I just think he would go the same way as a lot of fighters did back in that time. They just try and survive. And Tyson would come out, great head movement, great speed, great footwork, great angles. And I just don't think a heavyweight like Shannon Briggs has the ability to go with Mike Tyson. I really don't. So if I had to pick Ronnie, I would say Mike Tyson wins a very, very, very unanimous 12-round decision. Okay. Put your comment in there, guys, if you would like to comment. We'll move on. We'll keep coming back. I'm going to go through the comments, and we'll just keep chopping and changing. At the end of the day, you guys are putting the comments in, so we're going to talk about what you guys want to talk about. The Maloneys. Always love talking about the Maloneys. A win for Andrew Maloney would be great. Perfect matchup for where he is now in his career. Good luck to him. All right, so he's fighting Junto Nakatani, 24-0 from Japan for the WBO Junior Bantamweight or Super Flyweight World Championship. As I said, Nakatani 24-0, coming off a 10-round. Andrew's coming off a 10-round decision over Norberto Jimenez, and Nakatani's coming off the 10-round decision over Francisco Rodriguez. That was in November last year in Japan. Make no mistake about it, guys. This is as tough as tough. This is a very hard fight for Andrew, but wouldn't have it any other way. We all know the Japanese are such great fighters, such proud fighters. But it is on at the MGM Grand on the Haney Lomachenko card. Sometimes, Andrew's fought in the States numerous times now in big fights. Sometimes when you take the Japanese out of the comfort of their home, like a lot of other fighters from other countries that fight primarily in their own country, sometimes they can take off about 25%. I don't think it affects Andrew because he's fought over there numerous times before, as whether it's the B side or whatever it might be. That I think swings the fight for me in Andrew's favour, and I think he gets the win. Look, it will be an unbelievably tough fight, but what a platform to be on. MGM Grand Ballroom. This is in the big room, the MGM Grand Garden Arena, and how good would it be for that the camp of Andrew Maloney to win that fight against such a very, very good fighter. Of course, Jason's fighting the week before. Details of that, by the way, will be out, I think, on the 30th, so this week, full details. We know he's going to be fighting Vincent Astrolabio for the WBO bantamweight title, but all the location and all that sort of stuff will be announced this week, Thursday, I think it is. So that's American time, so Friday here in Australia. Jason, 25-2. Astrolabio is 18-3. And as I said, the WBO bantamweight championship of the world. And what a week for Team Maloney. I can't wait to get over there. I'm really looking forward to it. I'll be over there, I think, sort of midweek of Jason's fight. Can't wait to get there, and I'll be covering it while I'm over there with the daily updates as well as maybe some interviews. Not so much with the boys, I will say. I'll probably be leaving the boys alone unless they want to talk, of course. but I'll be leaving them alone. But I'll be definitely talking to Tony Tolge, the manager, Angelo Hyder, the trainer, if he wants to come on, and numerous people involved in Team Maloney's camp. So I can't wait to do that. And but as I said, a massive week for Team Maloney and Australian boxing in general. These guys don't get anywhere near the amount of plaudits they deserve. I know the real hardcore boxing fans know them and love them and respect them. But in the wider community, I just don't think they get anywhere near what they deserve. And hopefully, when they bring the belts home, that will change. I'm going to scroll down a bit there, guys, because I've probably skipped a few. Andy, Oscar trying to feed Munguia to Bivol, hoping he beats last man to beat Canelo to try and get Munguia Canelo fight. Bivol likely schools Munguia. Yeah, I agree with you, mate. I don't look Munguia. Look, he's very capable. Don't get me wrong. But at light heavyweight, I'm not sure. Is that right? Is Munguia looking to go to light heavyweight? I know he's just gone up to middleweight. I think if he went to light heavyweight, even super middleweight, not a good move at this stage. As I said earlier, though, I'm not quite sure Bivol comes down to super middleweight unless there's a really good coin that Oscar stumps up to fight Munguia. But if it's a light heavyweight, yeah, I'm with you, mate. I think Bivol schools Munguia. And you are right there, James. Everyone wants that Canelo payday. And why wouldn't you? You fight him, you're probably guaranteed $8, $9, $10 million. So it's worth getting knocked out, isn't it? Andy, yep, thanks, mate. Like and subscribe, folks. Really appreciate it. Yeah, I didn't say that at the start. Make sure we are climbing. We've got a really good, dedicated little fan base, I will say, and that's great. It would be good to sort of expand a little bit more and get a few more involved in it. We have got a lot more lately, a lot more views, which has been good. But spread the word and let's get more people involved in talking boxing. Back to Benavides. Did seem a little slower with his single shots from a distance. Was fast up close as always, but Caleb off the trigger was just quicker until Benavides had him hurt. Yeah, look, mate, until fatigue kicked in, I thought Caleb Plant pretty much dominated Benavides. I just think he was quicker, more agile, threw better combinations. He just didn't have the power to keep Benavides off for that amount of time. And even though he did well for the first 6 rounds, after that really struggled. And Benavides, as I said earlier, just picked it up and picked up the pace, and Plant just couldn't go with him. Adam Kelly, how are you, mate? Has Jamal actually fought someone good? I can't see anyone on his resume. No, not really. I don't think. I'll bring him up while we're talking about it, guys, and let's have a look. No one really jumps off the page for Jamal Charlo we're talking about, by the way. Let's have a look. I'll bring him up. I get them mixed up sometimes. I should know this. Let's have a bit of a look at Jamal Charlo. 32-0, a hitman, he calls himself. Yep, good on you. Of course, he beat Dennis Hogan, but Dennis Hogan's not really one of the elites in the world. Got the IBO title, of course, and signed with Matchroom now, so who knows. Austin Trout's a former world champion, I suppose. Yeah, no one really. These fights some capable fighters, I will say. But yeah, I'm with you there, Adam. Sorry, I've sort of drifted off a bit there, but no, I'm with you. I can't see anyone that really jumps off the page that, wow, yep, really good win. Andy says Jamal versus Andrade would be lit. Yeah, it would be, mate. Really good fight. And I think they both need that fight. I mean, we just said Dan, Jamal hasn't really had that definitive fight. Andrade, look, he's not a Canelo or any of these types of guys, but he's still a very, very good fighter, former world champion, current world champion, interim, whatever you want to call it. So it would be a great fight. History of both being super welterweight to middleweight champs is intriguing, and maybe you put Munguia in that category as well. Could be some really good fights happening there. But anyway, we'll see, mate. These days, I've got to tell you, Andy, I don't really get excited about fights until they're signed, sealed, and delivered. We talk about it on numerous shows. So much hearsay these days, and half the time they don't happen. So until that happens, mate, we'll put that one on ice. Oh, we're back to Mike Tyson here. Oh, here we go, Andy. Prime Eye Mike, Mauls Prime Shannon. Amen. But likely wouldn't have happened because they respect each other as Brooklyn boys, same as Bo. Yeah, good point, actually. And that is correct about Bo. I'm not sure whether they were just trying to avoid each other, but they just never fought, which is a real shame. And Bo missed out on a couple of really big fights. He never fought Tyson and never fought Lennox Lewis, and that would have been great. That would have been the rematch of the '88 Olympics, of course. Lennox Lewis stopped Riddick Bowe for the gold medal in Seoul, so that would have been great. But yeah, I'm not quite sure. But good point, Andy. Very good point. Ronnie, again, mate, Andrew Maloney has all the tools to beat this fella, but he has to use them, and I think Jason Maloney wins this one. Yeah, I'm with you, mate. As I said before, don't make no illusions about it. Very, very tough fight for the boys, especially for Andrew, I think. But I think he's got all the tools to beat Nakatani as well. And Jason Maloney, definitely. Now, that's on the undercard of the middleweight WBO world title fight. I can never pronounce his name, but he'll be co-main event. I'm not sure which is the main event, which is the co-main. But either way, I'll be there just to watch Jason anyway. Another one. You put it on there again, Andy. Ronnie. Sorry. All the tools. Yep. Okay. So you're elaborating now, are you, Ronnie? Jason won't have too much class for the bloke. He's fighting and does some real damage with his body shots. Well, anyone that the boys fight, especially Jason, those body shots, they just cut him down. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if Jason Maloney actually cuts down the Filipino Astrolobio and maybe stops him to win the WBO title. And how good would that be? And I think I said last week, how good would it be if Nonito Donaire wins the WBC belt? And these guys, they've been on a collision course for a long time. I would love to see that fight. So that may maybe happen later in the year. Yes, Batman. The Junto fight will be lit 100%. All right, so let's get on to the undercard of Caleb Plant and David Benavidez. What did you guys think? Now, as I said before, great undercard of fights. Wasn't some of these fighters, sometimes, I will admit, even in those really big fights, and they promote them up, I find myself sort of looking at the watch, or not that I have a watch, looking at the phone, scrolling through social media, maybe going out and getting a couple of jobs done before the main event. But yesterday, I watched the whole, well, there's only 4 fights on the card. I watched all the cards, the fights on the card, and was totally, totally enthralled in the whole thing. So, the undercard fights were Cody Crowley won a 12-round decision over Abel Ramos. Really, really good fight. Crowley moves to 22-0. Abel Ramos 27-6-2. A little bit misleading, that record, because he's only fought some really, really elite fighters as Ramos. Jesus Ramos, his brother, stopped Joseph Spencer. 2 games for his own good, that Spencer. Oh, shit, Dizzy copped some punches. And I was really happy that his corner pulled him out. So that was a 7th-round stoppage. But the main one that caused some conjecture was Chris Colbert. Had the 10-round decision over Jose Valenzuela. It was 95-94 times 3. Valenzuela dropped Colbert in the first 30 seconds of the fight. But Colbert, reassessed, recalibrated, got himself back on track, and the final scores are 95-94 times 3. My opinion is, I thought Valenzuela did enough to win. However, I'm not going to argue with the judges because I think, again, we've got to get past the whole ripped off and it's a robbery and all that sort of stuff. If it's a close fight, guys, let me just reiterate. If it's a close fight, just because your guy didn't win doesn't mean he was ripped off. It was a very, very close fight. As I said, I thought Valenzuela, keep going to say Venezuela. Valenzuela, I thought, did just enough, but probably by 1 point to win it, maybe 5-5, and then the point got him over the line. However, I'm not going to argue with the result. It was a very, very close fight, a lot of close rounds, could have went either way, and I'm not going to argue. As I said, 95-94 times 3 were the cards. But what did you think out there? Did you think Valenzuela did enough to win, or did you think Colbert won that one? Colbert, by the way, goes to 17-1. Valenzuela drops to 12-2. While I'm waiting for the comments to come through, let's go through a few comments backtracking there because I am about 40 seconds in front. So, again, if you put a comment in and I miss it, I'll go back. Ross, how are you, buddy? Ronnie would be going to the Maloney fights. He certainly is. He didn't have a choice in it. I said, you are coming, Ronnie. So we're both going over there together and can't wait. We've been on many adventures together as Ronnie and myself, and this will be another one. Our last one was when was it? Only a couple of weeks ago for Zoo and Harrison. And before that, we hadn't been since 2019 with Canelo fought Danny Jacobs in Vegas, which was awesome, and we've obviously been together a few times. So, so he is going to answer your question there, Ross, and you're more than welcome to come at any stage you want to come. James says, I had Zoo number 48 pound for pound before the Harrison. 48. Okay, now he's in the top 40 somewhere. Is this on the box rec algorithm, James? I know we've had this discussion before with the pound for pounds. If you haven't, by the way, have you seen the Australian pound for pound? We might get into that later. I don't know what algorithm these guys use, but some of the fighters that are in the top 5 and some that aren't, I don't know how it works. But anyway, we'll get to that later. If he beats Jamal Charlo, would be a big leap to fringe top 10. Yeah, I'm probably not going to go as far as top 10, James, although I wouldn't argue. Maybe 11 or 12, I'm probably thinking, but would certainly not argue that he would be in the top 10 if he beats Jamal Charlo. Undisputed champion. But I've got a feeling that Devin Haney can't get in the top 10. I'm not sure. And he's the undisputed lightweight champion, of course, whether that gets Tim Tszyu in there. It depends on how he goes about it. If he goes out there and completely outclasses Charlo or stops him, that would definitely be enough to get him in the top 10 if you ask me. But if it's a close decision or whatever, around the top 10, I agree with you, James. Yep. Geno Matt says, I was scoring the Colbert versus Colbert Valenzuela fight. Yep, and had exactly as the judges did. Not a huge robbery. Yep, I agree, mate. As I said before, just because it's close doesn't mean it's a robbery. If it had went the other way, I wouldn't have argued. Colbert won. I had Valenzuela in front by 1 point, but a lot of close rounds. Very, very close fight. And look, probably brings up another point, guys. I really hate it. I know it's a highly emotional sport. I know there's lots of egos and no one likes to lose, but I hate seeing fighters carry on like it's Whittaker and Chavez, when they don't get the decision. I thought Valenzuela really, I think, let himself down a little bit. And the commentator played the straight bat at the start and said, look, I'm not going to comment. I'm the one asked the questions. You just answer it. But then at the end, dropped in just a little mic drop at the end and said, well, for what it's worth, I agree with you. I don't think he really should have said that, but whatever. He's got to be impartial. But I just don't like when these fighters cry blue murder when they lose a close decision. What he should have done is said, look, I thought I did enough to win. Congrats to Chris Colbert. I'd love a rematch and let's go again. Chris Colbert, I thought, handled himself really, really well. From right when the decision was announced to the interview afterwards, I thought he was a very, very gracious winner and said, hey, let's run it back. Let's do it. So good on him. Team Batman says, I think Colbert was very lucky to get the win. I didn't see him winning at all. Clearly lose. Okay, yeah, we're not going to argue with that, mate. I'm not sure I could see him clearly losing. I thought, as I said, mate, I just thought a lot of the rounds were close. I had Valenzuela winning just by the knockdown. Apart from that, I had it 5 rounds apiece. But, in those close fights, a lot of people see it in different ways and score it with a sort of different way, under different criteria. So I'm certainly going to question yours, mate. So anyway, that was the undercard. We'll move on because I'm sure I'll get a few more comments come about those, about the scorecards. Let's move on to the other big fight yesterday. Lawrence Okolie. This was on yesterday morning. It was on Fox Sports, I think it was. Lawrence Okolie with a 12-round decision over David Light for the WBO Cruiserweight title. The score was a 116, 112, 119, 108, and 117 for 110, all for Okolie. And I don't really know what to say about the fight, to be honest, guys. I mean, certainly wasn't a great day to start. It was a great way to start the day of fights. It was a bit of a snore fest. I was really disappointed in the performance of David Light. And looking in hindsight, I can't believe that a lot of people had David Light maybe winning this fight. One thing I will say, again, David Light was the last guy to beat Jai Apataya. Now, as an amateur, I understand all that. But amateur, pro, however you want to call it, the fact that David Light even laid a glove on Jai Apataya, I'm staggered. I really am. Even though it was as an amateur, from what I saw yesterday, I think, especially if they fought as pros, he wouldn't even lay a hand on or a glove on Jai Patai. I think Jai Patai would get him out of there within 5 or 6 rounds. I really do. But from what I saw yesterday, David Light had no right even being in a world title fight against Akoli. Now, I know he's a no limit boy. I understand all that. No, I saw them over there, and you can only do so much. He went there to win, but it was the same old, same old. I don't know who's that peanut in his corner. He was over here when his fighter fought Justice Honey. The guy gets in there with shorts and thongs. Now, come on, mate. Was it Peaches Boxing or something in New Zealand? Mate, come on. You got to be a little bit classier when you get in there with these fighters. Wear thongs into a world title fight, or any fight for that matter. Shouldn't do it, but on the other hand, it should be outlawed by the governing body. No thongs. But look, all that aside, I'm only taking the piss. But I thought David Light, same old game plan every single round. His corner gave him no instructions, or whether they did and he didn't follow it. He kept going to his right for some reason, which negated himself, and Akoli just picked him apart round by round by round by round. And I think I agree with the 119, 108 card. The only point that Akoli lost was when he got, I think, got penalised for holding, wasn't it, or hitting on the back of his head, whatever it might be. But really, really disappointed in David Light, because he looked like he just had no clue, no idea to how to combat Akoli. And I don't think Akoli is that great, in my opinion. I think Jai Pattaya beats Akoli handily. Definitely beats David Light handily, but I think he beats Akoli if they do happen to get it on. I know Pattaya's obviously got Mastadak in his next fight, but if he beats him, it'd be great to get those guys together. Yeah, as I said, I just don't think either one of those guys are in the same league as Jai Pattaya. Just my opinion. Batman, Coley looked bad. Eddie Hearn must have laughed after that Coley performance. Look, the guy's a world champion, so who am I to rubbish him? But I'm just giving my opinion. But how this guy has managed to win a world title, and how David Light managed to be number one for that particular title, he almost looked a little bit like an amateur the way he fought. Now, who knows? I might be a little bit hard on Akoli, but skill wise, I just don't see how he's anywhere near Jai Pattaya. I really don't. It was a shocking fight, and I just couldn't wait for it to end so we could get into the Caleb Plant and David Benavides fight. But look, as I said, who am I to rubbish Akoli? He's a world champion. He's done the hard work to win it, but geez, I don't like his chances against Pattaya. And speaking of Jai Pattaya, what did he say? Grass growing, paint drying, Akoli boxing. So he said, don't forget who the big dog in the division is. And I must admit, so that I love that. He's just planting the seed for a future fight, and hopefully, as I said, with Pattaya beats Mastanak, that fight might happen down later in the year, and might just start the ball rolling for that one. But I just hope they don't bend and fight him in England. That gives him another leg up, if you ask me. I would hope they would do it in Australia or a neutral venue or whatever it might be. But it'd be interesting to see No Limit up against Eddie Hearn. It won't be no. Although they are talking about Jai going to No Limit. Actually, just to regress a little bit on the Jai Pattaya thing, I know we're getting off topic here, but I did read. We saw last week that he won the court battle over D&L Events, Dean Lonigan, and was a free agent, or so we thought. Dean Lonigan is now has appealed that decision, and he's seeking $1.6 million in compensation. That's what he said he would have lost in, I think it was 5 fights he would have had in that duration, what's left on the contract that he has. Now, I don't know the particulars of the whole contract, by the way, but one thing I will say is that a contract, in my eyes, is a contract. I'm going to ring Mick Francis a little bit. This is his Giants manager. Maybe get a little bit more light on this, or I might even ring Dean and see what he has to say. Not sure, he can probably comment, but yeah, I would think that a contract is a contract, and you can't get out of it. I would have thought, and if you do want to get out of it, well, you've got to compensate the person you're breaking the contract with. So it's going to get messy. I hope it doesn't derail his next fight or whenever it might be. He might have to sit out of boxing for the next 18 months or whatever it is until it's happened, which means he'll get stripped of his title. I'm sure that something will happen, but let's just, for argument's sake, say that all gets sorted out. No Limit, I'm assuming, would take on Jai Pattaya. So what happens then with Eddie Hearn with Akoli? And although he's with the Cole, is he? Is it with Frank Warren? Am I getting that wrong? Whoever it might be interesting to see whether the promoters involved. I'm sort of getting off the rails there. Whether they do it in Australia or England, because I think it will have a massive bearing on that fight. Ronnie says, seen that fight, thought it was boring, light, couldn't figure the bloke out, and I reckon at the very top level, Okoli is overrated, and that thong thing very. I don't know what you're saying there, Ronnie, but it didn't look very professional. Oh, look, you can only look as good as some fighters will let you. And David Light, I think, had a real opportunity to win that fight. I don't think Okoli was anything special. He wasn't doing anything special to keep David Light off. David Light just fought a really, really bad fight. Didn't change things up, even when he was down 6, 7, 8 rounds. Didn't change the game plan. Did not change anything. And after it was like just a carbon copy each round. Now, again, I'm not in there. I don't know what was going on, but surely you change it up when the first 6 or 7 rounds haven't worked. You change it up with something. You try something a little bit different. How about move to the left might be something you might want to do for starters. Or, maybe try jumping to the body and coming with an overhand right, something. But all we did was he stood at range, he let Okoli pick him off, and when he did attack, he let himself just be tied up and negated. Shocking game plan. And I've just, look, whether it's David Light himself couldn't follow the game plan or the cornerman just had no right being in a world title fight in the corner. I mean, you look in contrast to Okoli's corner, Sugar Hill in the corner. I mean, this guy is all class. Of course, he's with Fury and numerous others, but cool, calm, collected, had good advice in the corner each round. He wasn't getting excited. He kept nice and calm, and Okoli followed it to the tee. And David Light just made it so easy for Okoli to win every single round of the fight. So I'm really disappointed in that. And let's hope David Light comes back and shows a bit more, because it was a really, really disappointing effort. So we'll see. Okoli is with Ben Shalom and Sky Sport. Okay, sorry, mate. I wasn't quite sure, but yeah. But either way, whoever he's with, it'll be interesting to see how the no limit thing plays out with his promoter and whether they do it in England or Australia. Because as I said, I think it'll have a massive bearing on where that fight land. Sorry, not where it land. What direction it goes in. So I think both fighters are probably a 3-round better fighter, if not 4-round better fighter in their own country. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Jules, how are you, mate? The cruiserweight division is the worst division in boxing. Is that right? Opatai will make mincemeat of all comers if given the opportunity. Well, I'm with you, mate. You take Opatai out of it, I think it's a very, very limited and division, and I think Opatai wins all those fights very, very easily. I think Breedis was the big fight for him at that weight. And he got through that with flying colours. Tough fight, of course. But I think if he got through that, I don't think David Light or a Coley or whoever can really give him anywhere near the fight that Breedis did. And I think Opatai is an undisputed cruiserweight champion in the making, if he decides to stay there. And I think he will. I think he'll want to unify and then maybe look at the heavyweights down the track. So, but yeah, worst division in boxing. That's a bold statement there, mate. But I'm not going to disagree with you. Keep the comments coming there, guys. As I said, I'm a little bit in front, so if the comments come in, I'll go back and go back over them. One more there. Batman, Okoli needs a press conference in between each right hand. Definitely a bad look. Look, he reminds me a little bit, to be honest, like a Deontay Wilder. But Wilder has the power. Like, very, very limited. I know both of them didn't have a lot of amateur background, although Wilder did, didn't he? He went to the Olympics. But, look, limited in their ability, but Wilder makes up for it with his right hand. Okoli doesn't have that right hand at all, and I think he's been benefited a lot by just his opposition and the type of guys they're getting him in with. But I think the minute he fights a quality cruiserweight like a Jai Opetaia, he might be in a little bit of trouble, if you ask me. So we'll see. Batman again will sell more tickets in Australia. I would assume Coley didn't sell many at the weekend. Where was it? Manchester. Yeah. Bad turnout really for a city that loves boxing. Yeah, you're right, mate. They tend to turn out in droves, don't they, for the boxing? And look, those types of fights just don't help the situation. And I think his promoters will see it for what it is, and maybe say, yeah, look, let's give up home ground advantage and go over to Australia, and it'll be a big event over here. Jai Opetaia, good pay-per-view numbers, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's back here, mate. Let's hope so. G'day, Matt says, one saving grace for the cruiserweights is the best. Always fight the best. And you don't have to wait a decade for them to unify. Yeah, well, look, I suppose you had Breedis and Opataya and now Okoli and Light. And you're about to have Opataya and Masternak, depending on court proceedings. So, yeah, well, we'll see, Matt. Let's just hopefully that they do fight each other. But the cruiserweight division's always been a bit that way, hasn't it? It's always been just a poor man's heavyweight division. I know we've had Usyk there, and in the past we've had Holyfield there, and I remember back in the day there was guys like Carlos de Leon and these types of guys. We've had some good cruiserweights over the journey, but it just seems like that bastard son division, doesn't it? The cruiserweights, and the real good cruiserweights tend to go up and chase the money at heavyweight, don't they? So anyway, but yeah, hopefully you're right there, mate, and we do the best fight the best, and we get those fights down the track. We'll move on, guys. If the comments addressing these keep coming, I will go back. Let's get on to a few shows on the weekend. There were 2 shows. There was the Wildfighter event in Sale, and there was the Big Time Boxing event at the Melbourne Pavilion. In the main event at the Wildfighter, Tej Singh with an upset 8-round decision over Blake Wells. Now, that was definitely against the grain, or not according to the script. I actually spoke to Will Tomlinson on Friday, I think it was. He had the weigh-in, and he just rang me. He always rings me for a bit of an event, does Will. Doing great things, I will say, for Victorian boxing as well. Shows are always first class. But I wonder what he would have thought, because I know Blake has been sort of angled towards a fight with Jade Mitchell on one of the No Limit shows coming up. So I'm not quite sure what happens there, whether that throws a fly in the ointment. But that would have been a good fight too, Blake Wells and Jade Mitchell. So, but Tej Singh, look, he's the ultimate spoiler, is Tej Singh. He's one of those fighters you don't want to fight unless you really have to. And I've got the feeling that maybe, I haven't talked to Will Tomlinson about this, but I've just got a feeling that like Blake Wells is very, very hard to match, especially going all the way down to Sale. If you're not familiar with it, I think it's about 3 hours out of Melbourne. So it's a long way out of Melbourne in country Victoria. So to get someone all the way down there. Tej Singh, though, he'll fight anyone, anywhere, anytime. He's just one of those types of fighters. And he's now with Fortitude Boxing, which I didn't sort of factor into to anything when looking at this fight. And it's a bit like, actually, was it? No, he's not with Fortitude. He's with Angelo Hyder, I think he is. Is that right? I think he is, yes. Unless I've got that wrong. Sorry, guys. It's one of them. But either way, both very, very good trainers, of course. I think it's with Angelo Hyder, I think. But look, you got to factor that in. And going down there, they would have had a great game plan for Blake Wells, who's a big, big puncher. We all remember his sparring session with Anthony Mundine a few years ago. Have you ever seen it? That he knocked out Anthony Mundine in sparring. So yeah, that definitely would have upset the uppercut in that one. Also on that card, Max Reeves won an 8-round decision over Mark Smith. They'd fought, I think, a few months back, and it was a technical draw. I think it was a broken nose or something caused by an accidental headbutt. And that was a rematch. And Benjamin Hussein with a knockout over Kiwi Valami Lava. So, yeah, so good card down by all accounts by Wildfighter down there. So, and that's the second show in a week. So, yeah, we'll try and do his best to keep everyone active. Back to Jai Opataya. Batman says Opataya reminds me a little bit like Bivol. I think he outclasses Okoli easily. Look, I think, yeah, it's a good comparison, Batman. Look, Jai, so slick, so good skills, good footwork, good power, good stamina, you name it, and he's got it. And if you're not familiar either with Paulo Akuso, he's a carbon copy of Jai Opataya as well. He's only had 4 fights. He will be pushing the boundary as well, I would think, in the next sort of couple of years for a world title shot as well as Paulo Akuso. But I'm with you with Opataya. Just outclasses guys just with great skill. Doesn't seem to get hit a lot. I know Jai had the broken jaw, but Breedis is a tough guy. And I think was at the top of the tree. And I don't think Okoli has the skills nor the power to do to him that Breedis did to him. And I think he wins that fight, like you say. They outclasses him easily. And James, yes, 100%. Opataya is a skillful boxer. Angelo, Ronnie, thanks for shedding light. He's with Angelo. Yeah, I thought he was. Because he's not with Fortitude, because maybe he was training there at one stage, I think, and now he's obviously with Angelo Hyder. And one of the best in the business is Angelo Hyder. Of course, he trains the Maloney boys. and doing a great job with them. So you factor that in. Not many fighters from that stable up there, Dragon Fire Stables. Angela Hyder up on the Sunshine, not Sunshine Coast, on the Gold Coast, or what is it, the Upper New South Wales coast on the border. Not many fighters lose out of that stable, and the guys up there, the Maloney's, Bruno Torimo, who's the little super bantamweight as well. His name escapes me at the moment, but yeah, doing some really good things up there is Angelo Hyder. The other one on the weekend was big time boxing. Unfortunately, he didn't get the result in that one. It was a technical draw. Chris Terzewski, who of course beat Paul Gallen last year, had the 3-round draw with Django Upalu. Django is with Fortitude. So, and Django had that great win last year on the Cambosis Haney undercard. But, yeah, didn't get the result there. How do you pronounce it? Terzewski, whatever. Injured his ankle with a fall and had to retire. So it was a technical draw. So that one will probably get the run around again. And on the undercard, Ben Kelleher with the stoppage of Khalid Baker. So derailed Khalid Baker a little bit in that one. There's been some good raps on him. But Ben Kelleher getting the chocolates in that one. So so a big weekend of boxing in Victoria and, of course, around the world. Jules, we've got a question there, mate. Ronnie Pickett says, Alex Winwood. How could you forget Alex Winwood? This guy will be a world champion, mark my words. He's only had, is it 3 fights, Ronnie? But he's also already ranked in the WBC. I don't know how that happens, but good luck to him. This guy's a little killer. Reminds me a lot of Andrew Maloney, to be honest, a young Andrew Maloney. Not that you're old, Andrew, sorry if you're watching. But he's only a kid, and I got no doubt that this guy will be a world champion at super, is it light flyweight? I think it might be. Jules H, was Opetaia number 1 pound for pound, Lynden? Is he big enough to go up to heavyweight where the money is? Pound for pound in Australia, Jules, yeah, I would say yes. And, geez, it's a tough one after the last weekend. Look, to be honest with you, if I had to choose out of Tim Tszyu and Jai Opetaia for number 1, I think I'm going to go with Tim Tszyu. I know it's an interim title, but it's still a title. I love Jai Opetaia, don't get me wrong, but I just think Tim Tszyu, that Tony Harrison win, I think was the one win that just put him a little bit past Jai Opetaia. And as I said before, I don't really like to say who's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I know we all sort of do it, but I just say, look, these are the top 10 fighters in Australia and the world. It's so hard, different criteria with different fighters. I just don't like to rank them, but I would say, let's just say Opetaia and Tim Tszyu, number 1 and 2. Without question, as far as the pound for pound stuff goes. So yeah, that's my decision there. So keep the questions coming there, and I'll keep going back as they come up. Let's go to this week's Box Rec schedule, guys. We have, I'll just put that there. I'm going to go to, it's a big one this weekend. Sorry, guys. I'll go here. All right, just quickly, I'll just get that off the screen there. All right, so you can see there, I'll get that off if I can. All right, here's the Ace Boxing event. Make sure you get this one. This will be an awesome event. It's on beIN Sports, on Fox Sports or KO. Angelo DiCarlo doing great things up there. As I said last week, this is a promoter who puts his hand in his pocket every single show to make sure his fighters get the fights they should be getting. You can see there, Floyd Masson up against Fabio Turchi for the IBO World Cruiserweight title. Floyd Masson 12-0 up against Turchi, who was 21-2. What a fight this will be. And if it's not just that one, look at the undercard there. You've got another WIBA World Featherweight title fight between Beck Hawker and Carice Brown from the States. Rebecca Hawker 6-0. Carice Brown 7-3. I think Beck Hawker makes a statement in this fight and dominates Carice Brown to get that win and set herself up for some really good fights down the track. The other good fight on that card, I will say, you can see there, Victor Nagby with a Australian super welterweight title fight against Dan Hill. So Victor Nagby 5-0, Dan Hill 3-0, so both undefeated. As I say, the O must go, or whatever they like to say in the build-up. Victor Nagby, though, has had about 100 kickboxing fights or Muay Thai fights, whatever they are. So a lot more experience than that record shows. So some big things coming for Victor Nagby. So in those 3 fights, I would say that Masson gets the win over Turchi. Nagby gets the win over Dan Hill, although it will be a close, tough fight. Beck Hawker beats Clarice Brown. Vegas Larfield and Sunon Agung Amaragam. I think I've pronounced that right. Again, both undefeated. Vegas Larfield, keep an eye on this guy. He's only a kid. I think he's 18 or 19. I already had the 7 fights. Another one in the Dragonfire stable. This kid is a potential superstar, so keep an eye on him. Great card. Tawana Campbell, 3-1-1 against Angel Rushton, 2-1. Now, I'm not sure whether did they actually fight before? I'll quickly have a look at the record there. No, they haven't fought before. I knew one of them had fought the same opponent a few times. You can see there. Tawana Campbell has fought Jessica Adams 3 times. And she got beaten in her last fight against Dee Hobbs. All right, so that should be a really good fight there. Angel Ruston there. Jalen Tate, 10-0. Love this kid against Arief Blader. You would expect him to get the win there. You can see there, undefeated 10-0. Blader 27-37-3. So probably just a good, tough journeyman there. Nathan Watson, 9-1 against Manyang Dut. And the other fight there, Lachlan Nantes and Brent Moore. So some really good fights on that card. Make sure you tune in. Be in Sports. I think I'm not sure whether it's 7:30 Queensland time or Victorian time. Either way, check your guides, but it's on Be in Sports and KO Sports this weekend. And again, doing great things is Angelo DiCarlo up on the Gold Coast and Brisbane. Jules says Larfield and Tate both future stars in my opinion. Yeah, I agree, Jules. Look, I'd probably like to see him step up the competition, which I'm sure they will. Both are only young guys, especially Larfield, as it says, only 18 or 19. Look, I wouldn't be surprised if they let him get to 15, 16, even 17 fights in the next 18 months to 2 years before they even think about stepping up. Why do it when you don't have to? No, makes no sense to throw him in there. I know everyone will say, he's fighting has-beens or bums, whatever it might be. Hey, no, what they're doing is matching him to get him the type of experience that he needs. And journeyman, as long as they're not easy beats, I don't care who they get in with, as long as they improve them in some way. Now, if they put him in with orthodox, southpaw, tall, short, punches, boxers, whatever it might be, journeyman, other up-and-comers, that's fine. That's fine. Let's give him a bit of a mix. So Larfield, for me, is going to be a potential star. Tate, again, probably a little bit early with him, Jules, but shows all the signs of being a very, very good young fighter. So, looking forward to seeing both of these fighters on the weekend. So what a stacked card. Awesome card. So make sure you check it out. And it's free. Well, it's not really free. If you got your subscription with Fox Sports or KO, you'll get it for free. But look, great things up there. Ace Boxing. So, Ronnie Pickin, you're busy tonight, mate. Off topic a bit, but where do you see Isaac the head splitter Hardman going after his last effort in Sydney? Admittedly, coming up in weight. Good question, mate. I'm glad some of these questions are coming in that aren't really part of the rundown. I like it. All right, Isaac Hardman. What I would suggest for Isaac is to do exactly what he's done so far and, excuse the pun, but take the loss on the chin. That's what I would say for starters, and which I think he's done. Yes, he thought he won the fight, and that's fine. I thought Rowan Murdoch won the fight, but that's neither here nor there. I love the fact that he's taken the L like he did against Sarafa. You remember with Sarafa, he got stopped in 2 rounds, fought, I think, 2 or 3 months afterwards, got straight back on the horse, got a win under his belt. Yes, he lost against Murdoch, but the guy's still a novice in the scheme of things. He's 25, 26, but in boxing, what's he had, 13, 14 fights, whatever it is. The guy is still learning the craft. I love the fact he's going over to the States. He sparred with Caleb Plant, of course, in the lead up to his fight with Benavides. And he's getting the experience. He's taking himself out of the comfort zone and going over there and getting the experience that he needs. He's going to spar with the guys over here so often. And look, we've got some great talent over here, but you have to go over to the States to see the level. And Ronnie, you've been there. We've been over there with the Maloney's in the past. You see the level that you have to be at, even in the gyms over there. As soon as you walk through the door, you go from here to here. And sometimes what I will say, what I've seen some fighters in Australia be guilty of, Well, it goes two ways. You get some that think they've got to go in there and it's just a brawl, but others go in there and there's a bit of touch gloves and a bit of let's just help each other out sort of thing. In the gyms over there, it's kill or be killed. It really is. Having said that, they help each other out in certain ways, but if you walk in those really good gyms over there and you're with those good fighters, you have to walk the walk. So I love the fact that Hardman is over there doing that, and I'm assuming or hoping that he still does. And hopefully he gets a few sponsors that get behind him as well and get him over there as often as he can, because that's the way he's going to improve. So that's the one thing. I would think that with No Limit, I'm not quite sure, of his contractual obligations with No Limit. But I think if they're looking to get behind him, maybe they get him a couple of wins. Not against the guy he fought, I think, after Zarafa. That was just a lay-down knockout win. Getting some good, tough fighters, that are maybe not going to beat him, but give him some good rounds, give him some good experience, maybe fly some guys in from overseas, maybe some American journeymen or whatever it might be, and get him back up. But I like the fact that, I think I saw on social media that he said, which I continue on about all the time, what's his shit about the zero, about having to win all the time? Let's forget that. Pick yourself up and go again. You're only as good as your last fight. And yes, he lost to Rowan Murdoch, but if he gets another win or two under his belt, he's right back to where he started. One thing I would say to Isaac is that no matter what happens, don't fight at super middleweight. You are a middleweight fighter. I know you've had success there in the past, but these guys aren't Rowan Murdoch. So stay at middleweight. If you're going to sit down with No Limit and they're going to get behind you and take your career seriously, I'll be saying to them, okay, no matter what, we get middleweights. It's just got to be middleweight. And if No Limit are fair dinkum about getting behind Isaac, they go the same route and say we're not going to match him with any super middleweights. And if they've got to fly people in, I don't care, but make sure they're middleweights. I don't think they did him any favours. I admire Isaac for taking that fight. I really do, with Rowan Murdoch, but it wasn't a great career choice. One, because Rowan's is tough and experienced, but he's a good fighter. You know, I had a coffee with Michael Tamura, his Rowan Murdoch's manager, the day before the fight at the weigh-in, and they were very, very confident that they would beat Isaac, and he wasn't overly stressed about them taking Isaac on. So that sort of tells you something. So that's my advice there, Ronnie. Thanks for the question. Get back in maybe 2 more fights, maybe 3 in quick succession. So maybe 3 fights in the next maybe 9 months, maybe 10 months, and get some good rounds in against some good quality journeyman type of guys that are just going to give him the rounds. And when I say give him the rounds, I want, as I said, get someone from America that's going to try some dirty tricks, try and tie him up, try and do different things that they do at the top level to get him ready for these type of fights, and maybe then he can rise to the occasion, because he's still got a long way to go, Ronnie. He's sort of a long way, in my opinion, before he's at the upper echelon, but he's a hell of a long way, or a lot further down the track than what he was a couple of years ago. So all the best to Isaac. Geez, Ronnie, you got another one here, mate. Jason Maloney had been using Larfield in his prep, okay, for his world title bid, and told me he's very impressive. Well, if Jason Maloney's saying that about Vegas Larfield, then that's got to be spot on. And you can imagine the sparring in that gym. You know, Jason and Andrew and Bruno and Jason and Vegas Larfield. And I know Andy was down sparring with Paul Fleming as well. So, geez. And I think they're heading off overseas in a couple of weeks for a training camp over in the States as well, the Maloney boys. So I'm sure they'll get some ripper sparring over there as well. So it's all happening over there in the coming months. All right, guys, what else you got there? If not, we've got the Anthony Joshua fight this weekend. What do you make of that? Fighting Jermaine Franklin. I'm a bit neither here nor there. Are you going to get up at 4 o'clock? Are you going to pay your $30 and get up at, I think it's $30. I hope it's not 60. 30, 40 bucks, wherever it might be. Are you going to get up at 4 a.m. on Sunday morning to watch this fight? Or are you going to go out to the clubs and come home and watch it when you get home from the clubs? I don't know. But I, for one, won't be getting it and watching it. I might watch the highlights later on YouTube. But they're not really stressed. I'm really interested to see where AJ is at the moment. I'm not quite sure he's got it inside anymore. I'll be really interested to see this fight. Jermaine Franklin, great opponent for him, I will say. We saw that it was Dillian White, beat Franklin at the end of last year, and I think he's a perfect opponent for Joshua. Not a big puncher, not overly skilled, but he's a durable guy, hangs in there, and I think he'll be a good fighter for Joshua, just to get back on the comeback path. And who knows, will Tyson Fury fight someone else or wait for Joshua later in the year? I think Fury's got to fight in the meantime. I know they're talking about, I think I read the other day, they're talking about Joe Joyce. I know Joe Joyce has got a fight coming up against the big Chinese fighter. So normally heavyweights only fight every 6, 7, 8 months. So that's a long time to wait. So who's Tyson Fury going to fight now? Usyk will fight, is it Dubois he's going to fight? So who's Fury going to fight? There's been talk it's going to be Andy Ruiz. That's probably not a bad fight for me. I think that makes perfect sense. So we might have, although Ruiz was supposed to be fighting Wilder, so I don't know where we're at, but I would like to see, it sort of leaves Wilder out in the cold a little bit, doesn't it? That we might have Dubois against Usyk. We've got Joshua and Franklin. So yeah, where does Wilder fit in the scheme of things? I'm not quite sure. So all will be revealed. So all right, guys. Well, I think that's about it. We're approaching 8:30. That's about my time. I don't think the internet has gone bust just yet. I think we're still hanging in there. I've got no notifications saying that we're off air. So I hope it's been a little bit better tonight. What do you think of the new time? Is 7 o'clock better for you? 15 minutes later or half an hour later, a bit better. Let me know. But again, really appreciate everyone joining in. We've got a lot to cover in the next couple of months, and so I'll be there for the Maloneys overseas, and of course Hania Lomachenko and all the build-up and all the rest of it, and lots going on. If you haven't seen the latest edition of Watch Your Verdict, make sure you tune in. It is Sugar Ray Leonard and Thomas Hearns #2. So check that out on YouTube at the moment. And, of course, Wednesday for the Boxing Deep Dive with Tazzy Brown and Mike Altamura. Comment before we go. Boxing, so Team Batman Boxing. If we don't get Undisputed, I would rather Usyk versus Joyce than Usyk versus Dubois. I second that, mate, 100%. Fury most likely going to give Francis a beating. Yeah. Oh, is that the UFC guy? Jeez, I hope he doesn't fight him, surely. Jeez, I hope we haven't gone down that track at the moment. Although I didn't even think of him, Batman. You're probably right. Probably makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? So, what have we got there? So time is better as I've got to Doug Floyd. What time is it over there, mate? So we're just getting back to the heavyweight. Still got a little bit to go. So all right. So we could have Usyk and Joyce. No, because it's going to be Usyk Dubois. That's his mandatory. I think that's going to be the given. We might have Fury and Joyce. That's if Joyce backs up pretty quickly. I think Fury will want that fight again in the meantime. So does Joshua then maybe fight Wilder? Wilder's got to have another fight, if you ask me, surely. He's got to have another fight before he fights one of these guys. And then we've got Fury and maybe what'll happen there is we have Wilder and Ruiz, Fury and Francis, Nagano, whatever his name is, and Usyk versus Dubois. Who knows? All right, guys, we're going to call it a night at that. We're approaching 8:30. Really appreciate you joining in. As I said, don't forget to check out the YouTube for the latest videos. Watch Your Verdict. Make sure you put your vote in if you haven't. At this stage, I think Sugar Ray Leonard is winning that one. So, very contentious decision. And as I said, Wednesday night for Boxing Deep Dive with Mike Altamura and Tazzy Brown. So, thanks again for joining in, and look forward to seeing you next week at 7 p.m. Thanks for watching.